Can you hear me okay?
And where am
Okay, Lisa, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let's go ahead. Can you start the recording? It's 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get going on this, please.
Recording has been started.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Good. Okay, let's go to call to order. Roll call. I'm here. Valerie Richards has an excused absence. She's not here today. Linda Winstanley. There you are.
Here. Yeah.
Okay. Julia.
Here.
Grant has an excused absence today as well. Linda Whitney.
Here.
There. Miranda Robinson. No Miranda yet. Kirsten Bergerthon has actually, she notified me the other day, she has resigned. She's got some health. So she is no longer with us. Amber.
I'm here.
And Seamus.
Here.
Hey, Seamus. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3. Okay, let's go ahead. Commissioner Thompson, are you here? There you are. Commissioner Thompson. Jill Quackenbush.
I'm here.
Lisa, you're here. Monica, you are here as well. Or we're here.
I'm here.
Shira.
I'm just gonna, Shira is out ill, and so Brady Backstrom, yeah, there he is, and Aaron Jones are here on behalf of her to help with the civil commitment update.
Okay. Lori Moore. Okay, any guests besides our speakers? Okay, let's move on to approval of the agenda. I have a couple of changes to the agenda I would like to make. And my first one, number 8, says roles and responsibilities. That should be roles and responsibilities of HSAC. So I would like to move roles and responsibilities of HSAC up 1 to number 7 and move number 7 down to number 8. Anybody else have any changes or comments? Okay, so I will need a motion to approve the agenda with the noted changes.
I make a motion to approve with the noted changes.
And I need a second.
I second.
Okay, motion has, oh, wait, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion has passed. To public, or no, our presentation. Sheriff Phillips, you have the floor.
Sorry, Randy. So sorry, Randy. There were some changes that needed to be made to the minutes from last meeting.
That's coming up.
Okay.
So Sheriff Phillips,
Hi, good
we're going to
afternoon.
move to the minutes.
Yeah. Oh, should I take off now?
Sheriff Phillips, you're up.
All right, thank you. Brady, are you or Aaron going to run the slideshow?
I would love to, but I don't have share permission. I do have it.
Monica,
though.
you're muted.
I'm muted. I was trying to say, I think I can give those to you.
Oh, there you go.
I just
Yep.
Perfect.
Aaron, yeah,
Thanks,
as a
Lisa.
presenter.
Anyways, I was gonna mostly defer to the CBH staff because civil commitment is primarily a function of our CMHPs and not really law enforcement. We kind of get involved in the front end on one path towards civil commitment with the peace officers hold. We get involved with transports to support. But I do have some other experience with it, and I can maybe provide some additional commentary to the presentation.
Yeah, and so just to give some background here, my name's Erin Jones. I've worked with CBH for over a decade now. And right now I am our senior mental health investigator, which means I handle all of the civil commitment cases in the county. As a senior investigator, I also can oversee the training of other investigators. It's unfortunate that Ben was out. He was like, "Can you handle this?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine. This is exactly what I do all day." But yeah, so, and obviously we do a lot of coordination with law enforcement for that sort of thing. And Sheriff Phillips, I'm assuming that you're wanting me to just kind of take it from here.
Yeah, go ahead, and I might throw in a couple extra notes at the end of each slide.
Sure, no problem. So to kind of get started, civil commitment is kind of it's a big scary thing that sounds really complicated that in the state of Oregon is actually a lot more narrow, I think, than what people have in mind. A lot of times we hear about, commitment starting with a 5150 if you watch anything that comes out of California. But basically what it is, it's an intervention that we use when we're concerned that someone is going through a mental health crisis and they're not able to either they're a danger to themselves, they're a danger to other people, or they're unable to care for themselves in a way that would cause them to become a danger to themselves or others. That third criteria is often very difficult to prove, and there's some very specific legal statutes around that that have been put in place basically to be protective of people and also of their individual choices. For example, one of the things that often happens is people will be like, well, this person's homeless, and they're clearly suffering from a mental health issue. Is this something that they could be committed for? And the OIRs state that homelessness is not a reason for commitment. Now, if they're homeless and threatening to harm themselves, and that's due to a mental health issue, that's a discussion. But homelessness on its own is not something that we step in for. And it's a process. Basically, they would be placed under our supervision. I'm the court monitor as well. So I follow them for a period of up to 180 days, either while they're placed in inpatient facility, usually like one of the local hospitals like Cedar Hills or Providence St. Vincent's, or when they're basically what was placed on once they've stabilized more, they're placed on what's called a trial visit, which is kind of similar to the legal one, where basically they are under conditions to continue taking their medications, continue engaging in treatment up to, and then we monitor to make sure that they're actually doing that. And if they don't, we can go through a process which is called a revocation, where we will pull them back into the hospital because they're not doing well. That's thankfully rare, but civil commitment is there just because it's that safety net for people who are so mentally unwell and so disabled by their mental illness that they're not able to make those decisions for themselves.
Yeah, I'd add that the controlling statutes on this would be ORS statutes 426.005 through 0.415. And so civil commitment also allows for someone with an intellectual disability to be civilly committed. It's pretty uncommon, but the law does allow that. And there's also a similar path for extremely dangerous persons. That's ORS 426.701. and that would be for someone that causes someone's death or serious physical injury, and that person would be under the supervision of the Psychiatric Security Review Board for 24 months. And then, as noted, the standards that must be proven to civilly commit someone are very high, and our appellate court has moved that bar up over the years. And what that has done is, and the goal was, to reduce the stigma of civil commitment, to keep people engaged in treatment in the community. But what we've done is we've basically criminalized mental illness, because now these people are untreated. They end up in custody, and they go through the aid and assist path. And there is a direct correlation between the changes in standards and the number of people that are in the state hospital for civil commitment versus aid and assist. And it's just been a flip-flop of the numbers. When the majority of people used to be in for a non-criminal civil commitment, now the majority of the people at state hospital are in as part of trying to be restored to stand trial, because they now have a criminal charge also.
And the expansion, it's HB 2005 was the bill that came through this summer, that is going to be bringing some changes in starting next year in January. I'm not going to get into that because it would get us into the weeds, and honestly, I'm not super all the way up on it yet, because OHA is still working on sorting out exactly how that's going to look for us. But basically, it changes some of the statutes so that it becomes a little easier to commit in cases where we kind of are like, I don't know. But it also gives us some additional options to avoid commitment, because realistically, that's the thing we'd like to do, because we always want to try to make sure that folks are able to be in the least restrictive environment. And basically, so if they're able to be restored or be able to go to treatment, and they're willing to agree to stay for a few days, like a 14-day diversion, which is part of this, and I'm not going to get into it too much, so don't worry about that. But basically, that we have options now also to extend those, so that, like, because we have some folks that I've had that have completed a diversion, but because they're not quite stable enough, I had to go to a commitment hearing with them, when realistically they probably just need another week or so in the hospital to fully get stabilized on the meds that they're on. So, but those changes are coming, and we're going to see how that looks eventually, but I can't exactly answer how that's going to look just because OHA is still working it out. But how the process starts.
I have a quick question before you move on. This is Randy. Sheriff Phillips, you experiences intellectual disabilities can also be, is there any other criteria with an individual with a intellectual disability above what typical non-neurodivergent people have?
I think you have to prove the same standards, that there's an imminence of danger to self or others, and that they're unable to care for themselves to the degree that it's imminently dangerous to their life.
Mm-hmm. And especially for individuals that are like in more traditional like settings, like if they're living in like a care home, or if they're living with family, it's also being able to prove that the individuals that they're with are not able to continue to provide that protective factor for those individuals. Oh, sorry, Amber.
That's okay. I just wanted to piggyback a question on there real quick, if I may. Is there any process for determining and does it even matter, if the behavior is due to their neurotype or due to a mental illness?
Yes, actually, we do go through that process. I haven't, I'll be honest, I haven't handled any of these cases. They're pretty rare, thankfully. But we do, that is something that as part of the investigation process, that we try to make sure that we're weeding out, okay, is this a learned behavior? Or is this something that's happening because, for example, we're working with someone, like you said, with neurodivergence, that's something I'm always very aware of. Especially when I'm dealing with folks with like autism spectrum disorder, because sometimes they can be misdiagnosed with schizophrenia when really they're just, how they think and process things is different. And it doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just different. And and that's something that like I actually was just handling a case this week that I was like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm not looking at someone who's neurodivergent and traumatized and is having these experiences as opposed to, or is this person having a first psychotic break? But that's something that we always are looking into, and especially with DD cases and IDD, we really want to make sure, okay, is this a series of behaviors that is due to that is due to basically like an underlying mental health issue that's being untreated that's causing this danger, or is this being caused by or is this a behavior that's been learned that now we may have to try to make some supports around with like family or the home or shelter or a change of location even to try to figure out how to do some behavior shaping to get back to where they're able to maintain safety and community. Because you can be DD and still have depression, and you can still have anxiety and have PTSD, and knowing that that's also going to be a piece there and how that affects their ability to maintain safety to themselves or others is really important. And that is, it's definitely the long story short, it's definitely part of the nuance that we have to look into, and it's very important to do so, especially in cases of IDD.
And I appreciate that you mentioned trauma, because there's a lot of risk of complex trauma for individuals with IDD. So thank you for your answer. I appreciate it.
Anyone else? So basically how the process starts, to kind of go to the next slide, there's a couple different ways. One of the first ones is peace officers hold. This is when one of the sheriff's deputies or one of the officers on duty on patrol encounter an individual that they feel is suffering from a mental illness and is possibly a danger to themselves or others. And they will transport this individual to the nearest ED, be that CMH or Prov C side, for further evaluation. That starts the process of, we're putting you in front of a medical professional. That hold is basically a transport hold. I'm bringing you from where we found you to this location, to be able to get you assessed by someone who has a medical background. And that's one of the more common ones that we run into, is that law enforcement officers run into them and they find somebody in the community. They've got out on a call because community members concerned about someone's behavior and they're brought in. The second is director's custody. That's when it's most likely going to be one of the crisis team members can direct law enforcement to bring them to the ED because they're concerned that they're exhibiting symptoms that would meet criteria for potential civil commitment. It's very similar now. It used to be a little bit different in the past, but basically now it's instead of it's who starts that chain of custody, where a peace officer hold is done by our law enforcement officers. Director's custody is directed by the crisis team to the law enforcement officer, asking them, hey, can you please bring them to the ED so that we can get them assessed? And then and again, both of these are basically just the hey, we're not sure what's going on with you, but we think you need to get checked out. So we're going to bring you somewhere else. And these holds are usually very short. Luckily, we live in a small county, so somewhere like Lake County, these holds can last. There's a reason why by statute they can last up to 12 hours. For here, it's rare that it's more than 15, 20 minutes. But from there, they're assessed by two individuals within the ED. One of them needs to be a doctor, either MD or OB, doesn't really matter. And usually a social worker. They assess them, and if they feel that the person is a danger to themselves or others, they file what's called a notice of mental illness, or an NMI. That starts a 5 judicial day process of, where there has to be a hearing unless the individual starts getting better, and the hold's withdrawn, or in some cases, I will do an investigation. If I find, okay, they're improving and I don't think they meet criteria for commitment, I can recommend what's a no hearing. And at the end of those 5 days, the hold is dropped. But normally, this is done in an ED setting that one of the MDs and one of the social workers talk about it, agree it, and then place the hold. There are a couple other extra ones that are outside there. We can have what's called a two-party petition, which can be brought on by two people in the community who are concerned about another community member. They still file the hold of the court, and then by statute, the community mental health program has 14 days to investigate, or 15 days, sorry, 15 like physical days. This is where it gets weird because it doesn't differentiate very well, but 15 days from the filing to determine if there should be a hearing or not. Often this is good. This is actually helpful sometimes in cases for people that are, we know, and community members know that like they're on the way down, but they haven't quite gotten to the point yet where it's like, well, they're ending up at the ED, but we're really concerned that they may become a danger to themselves or others, and based on these patterns, we can prove that. But the hearing has to take place within 15 days, and for a notice of mental illness has to take place within 5. Often I get all 5, sometimes I only get 4, but I have basically the first 2 days I use to try to get that together. The one that Ben didn't mention on here that I think he forgot is there is a third path that isn't used super often, but sometimes will show up for folks that are also on the aid and assist path, which is a magistrate's hold. And it's the same thing as the NMI or a two-party petition. It's just it's started by a judge. Oh, go ahead. Oh, Amber. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm just curious. It seems like that there would be some kind of oversight to this. And so I'm wondering how often and by whom are there reviews to see, when I'm thinking about somebody presenting in the ED and perhaps being released when maybe there was a little bit of a gray area where they should have maybe have been hospitalized. How often are there reviews to see if things like that are happening and what the patterns are for different providers, and who does the review?
I believe that's covered by OHA. So Oregon Health Authority has a 5-party or a 5-person group that oversees that, and basically they also review all holds that are sent in. We send to them. They have a whole database that they keep checking on people. It's really also one of those things sometimes that can be interesting, and because sometimes the CMHP may think, hey, this person's committable. I think that we need to have a hold on them. We should start an investigation. And they meet with the ED providers, and the ED providers are like, nope, send them home. And, we have to work with that because that's their decision. They're the ones that are making the decision to start the notice of mental illness. We can sometimes override that a little bit, but it's really rare that we do. Mostly because they are being seen by a doctor, and our agreements basically with the hospitals are that, all right, well, if you're letting someone go, that's on that. Who has liability becomes the hospital because they were the one that agreed to safety plan. It doesn't happen very often. When it does happen, more often than not, it's one of those where it's like, well, I'll see you tomorrow. But basically, we do track that. The crisis team internally will track at CBH will track these things, especially with people that we know are not doing very well. And because sometimes too, it may also just be that because the way that civil commitment works, you have to look at how do they look in that moment. And sometimes they may stabilize just enough at the hospital that the hospital's like, I don't know that I can justify writing an NMI, even with all this history here. And so I'm going to choose to let them, they're agreeing to safety plan to home. So we have to do that as per least restrictive, but it is definitely monitored by OHA. And I hope that answered your question. It's not something I know super well, but I've talked with Zach Thornhill at OHA about it a couple times. So
That was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Commissioner Thompson has her hand raised.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's interesting how this occurs and which kinds of people are considered mentally ill and which are not. Because I live in a neighborhood that's gentrified pretty much and is pretty affluent now. And there's been an influx of people who feel entitled to react aggressively with other people in the neighborhood. So I've had some conversations with the sheriff about this, who says, you know, the bar is pretty high. And even if someone felt intimidated by being verbally aggressed upon, unless they consider themselves to be in imminent danger of great bodily harm. Sheriff, do I have that right? Is that kind of the
Yeah.
So people treating each other badly, even if it's fear-inducing and intimidating and involves motor vehicles, for example, and spittle on faces and, you know, stuff like that, doesn't rise to the level of significance in this. So my experience of it is that it's tilted toward keeping people out of this mental health process, even though there are repeated instances that I think result in a detrimental impact on the feeling of safety in the community. And it's not what we're talking about today, but for me, it's a part of the spectrum of behavior.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's also a thing too that sometimes can be a very big problem with this, is that we will have the civil commitment process is an excellent process for individuals that have a couple specific like disorders that are covered under those ORSs and OARs. Mostly these are really good for people that have uncontrolled like psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, people with bipolar disorder, especially if we catch them in a manic phase, which results in some very interesting behaviors. And in some cases, obviously IDD as well, but also in some cases, folks with PTSD. But on the other side is we have individuals who have what are considered in the DSM, what we call personality disorders, which is a really nice fancy way of saying that you have some characterological issues that make you a somewhat difficult person to deal with. Let me put that nicely. And very similar to the presentation that you were just talking about, Commissioner. And the problem is that civil commitment is actually contraindicated for those individuals because often it actually escalates behaviors. And that's unfortunate too, because the behaviors they're describing are very threatening and scary. And obviously if you reduce that feeling of public safety, and at the same time, I think that that's also where we start seeing as more of this becomes a little bit more, unfortunately, of falling into Sheriff Matt's world of where, okay, is this rising to the level of, like menacing or a criminal charge, because they are still, engaging in these behaviors. And he's also bound by those standards. But unless they're saying, I'm going to come after you directly, I'm going to do X like this, it's very difficult. Actually, realistically, harm to others is really one of the harder criteria for us to actually commit on. The hardest would be inability to care for self. That one's got a very narrow range. But harm to others, unless there's like a direct threat and we have, evidence of them planning to do so, it's really hard to do so. And unfortunately, like that's a problem that we have just US wide. I think because there's been, obviously we live in the US and there's that Onion article of no way this could be prevented, says, the only country where this happens regularly with gun crime. But it's one of those things that unfortunately, because we are trying to be very protective of people's rights, we are also trying to balance that with how do we maintain safety in community without, others being harmed. And it's a really, really difficult balance. And I feel, anytime that there's threatening behavior or aggressive behavior, it's like, this might not be the best thing for you to be doing, but you're not doing anything that I can take you to court for yet, or try to, because I'm concerned it's that. But it's also could be something where, like you said, you've probably been having these discussions, but, is this rising to criminal charges? Because this person may not be caused by mental illness. They just may be kind of mean as a person. And it sometimes is hard to be able to just be like, wow, people are just like that. So, yeah.
Hey, Aaron and Sheriff Phillips. So typically we give presenters 10 minutes to present, and you are well over that 10 minutes. So
I'm so sorry.
I don't know how much more you have, but we've got a lot on our agenda. So
I bet we can go.
It's an interesting topic, to say the least, but we are.
And if you'd like me to come back and finish this, I'm more than willing to. So
how much more do you have?
I think I just
How
have
about we
like one or
promise to
two.
go fast?
I just had I think it was just a couple slides. And it was basically, yeah, it was just 3 slides. And I kind of covered some of it, but basically it was just what the process was. And then like, where is the person going to go? I don't know if you guys had any particular questions, and I can kind of skip over that. But
And we
I
can
also,
make sure that her slides are included in like
Yes.
the follow-up too.
Mhm.
Yes, for sure, please.
All right. Well, thank you.
Any questions or comments for anybody, for Aaron or Sheriff Phillips?
And if you
If
do have
not-
questions ever, feel free to shoot us an email or ask Shira for my email. I try not to be hiding in the community, but I often am, just because I only show up when everybody's having a bad day. So
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Sheriff Phillips. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move on. Actually, I want to step back real quick to the agenda, approval of the agenda, because there is one other change on this that I didn't catch before, that I just caught. And the presentation was supposed to be Shira, but it's Aaron. So we need to change that on the agenda. So I would need a motion to approve that change.
Make a motion to approve the change.
I need a second. Somebody, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor to change the agenda's wording from Shira to Aaron? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion has passed. All right, approval of the minutes from August 7th, 2025. Does anybody have any changes to those minutes? I think Amber does.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Amber.
So
Let me
just
pull them up. I'm gonna share my screen. So you can start talking, but I'll share them too, so that we can look at them together.
So it's just, these are underneath my presentation section. I just want to, real quick, the name of my business, it's the Lotus Center for Neurodiversity. Neurodiversity is one word. And then under letter I, it says that the release of that update regarding the October 1st policy update that was released on July 1st, it was July 31st.
Under I. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Okay.
And then under J, it says that I've applied for an extension called CSSRS, and that's not correct. I think I talked about the CSSRS, which is it's a tool to look at suicide symptoms. The extension form was just like a non-contracted exemption form or something like that. So if you just want to remove that CSSRS part, and that's all that I noticed.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Amber. Any other changes to the August 7th minutes? If not, then I need a motion to approve the updated minutes.
I'll motion to approve the updated minutes.
Second.
I will second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That motion has passed. Public comment. I don't believe we have anybody here for comments. So let's move to roles and responsibility of HSAC. And I requested to put this on the agenda because there's some things we need to talk about that's been on my mind. And one of those, well, both of them actually, are how we present to the Board of Commissioners. And at when was it here? Last month, I was scheduled to present Grant North's application for renewal and our council's approval of that. And I was scheduled to present to the board. And the day before, I was informed that Monica said that county staff would be doing that and not me. And again, Monica, we chat a little bit via email, but in the past I have presented to the Board of County Commissioners on a couple of different items, and I know the previous council chair has presented as well. So why is that?
Sure, happy to talk to it. So in 2024, August of 2024, that was the last time appointments were made, and I did make those appointments. You did in 2023. And after you did, the question was asked, why is staff not presenting this? Because on all other board appointed committees, those recommendations that the committee has are being brought forward by staff. And in some instances, there's also an interview process that takes place that's more specific to some of those committees that have a little bit more statutory authority or specifically the Planning Commission and the Fair Board. And so that is a process and procedure that that has been implemented through the county manager, that staff is the one that is presenting the recommendations coming from the committee. And so it was an error on our part that your name was on there. But again, in August of 2024, this was something that I presented to the board and we let you know at that time. It's just the way that the county manager wants staff to present this information.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I'm the one who wrote the agenda item, and I was kind of out of the picture for a little while, and so I didn't realize that was the way that it was done now, and so that was my error, putting you on there and asking you to present, because I wasn't aware, and Monica caught it when it came across her desk. So I'm sorry for the confusion.
Okay. All right. So
Commissioner
okay.
Thompson has a question.
What's that?
Commissioner Thompson has a question.
Oh, I didn't see her. Oh, yes, Commissioner.
Well, it's how much do you get paid for this job, Randy? Nothing much. And I understand that the staff protocol and the county manager would like to have staff to be accountable for that because staff are present in his county money, and that makes good sense to me. On the other hand, if it also gives the community volunteers a venue, I wonder if it would be possible to have the chair of the community body and the staff present to the board, because it seems as though it's a way of elevating and honoring the work that community volunteers do. I don't want to second guess staff in any way, but it might be possible to have a joint presentation in some ways. I don't even know if that's a possibility, but it just occurred to me and I thought I'd raise it. Thank you.
And that's a good point, Commissioner, because, I've been feeling in the past, that we haven't had a connection to the Board of Commissioners because we've had none of you present in the past couple, 2 or 3 years. And now you are currently present at all of our meetings, and it's very much appreciated. But then again, as council chair, I feel a little bit left out because I just feel like I'm spinning my wheels here again. And it goes back, another question here, it goes back to our last meeting in that Amber presented her take on Care Oregon, and you asked me if there was a way for us to get that to the Board of Commissioners, and I came up with a solution, possible solution with how about Amber and I present to the Board of Commissioners about this, and you agreed that was a good idea. Monica agreed that was a good idea and said she'd try to see if county manager would get us on the work session in September. And then I get informed by Monica because I asked her recently if she had any luck getting us on that agenda, and she again informed us it's going to be staff that presents it and CBH that presents it, which is to me CBH presenting this and to Amber as well.
You broke up for me, Randy.
What's that?
You're breaking up for me anyway.
I know all of you are on my end too, so I don't know what's going on. But having
and I'm happy
CBH,
to speak to that as well.
I know, but having CBH speak to the board the Board of Commissioners on Care Oregon is a conflict of interest because they stand to benefit from all this. And so I'm going to actually let Amber step in here as well because she has some things to say about this as well.
Oh, trying to lower my hand, it's not lowering. There we go. Thank you, Randy. I do want to first off say that from my perspective, it feels as though the concern that Randy is conveying is that when and Commissioner Thompson, I loved your suggestion about a paired presentation where someone from the committee is there, the council's there, because it feels like if this information is being presented by a staff member, then there's error or chances that things are being lost in translation, things are, that things aren't being conveyed appropriately. And I think that's, at least from my perspective, where some of the concern is it feels like it's a process that's taking place without us. And I think that it is worth just, bringing up again that these last few years, we have been feeling very separated from the commissioners. And so it's great that you're here and that you're engaged. I think it might take some time for us to build that trust and process now that you are here and you're engaged. So that's just kind of from my perspective. But one of the things I just wanted to add really quickly, I have notes here, but I know we don't have a lot of time, is I looked at, we are a mandated panel. And so what is our, what are we responsible for as a Human Services Advisory Committee? Randy, you had said to me, and I think that this really hit the nail on the head, is that you said it feels like, or at least it has felt like in the past, that we are essentially just keeping each other up to date about these policies and things that are happening in our county. It's not so much that we are leading the efforts to change things for people in our county. It's more like we're just checking in with each other and keeping each other up to date. And maybe that is because of that separation that we've had from the commissioners. But in the description on the county website says the state mandated panel is tasked with providing guidance to the County Board of Commissioners on the local delivery of developmental disabilities, mental health, and alcohol and drug services. It goes on to say specific responsibilities, but the one I want to bring attention to is provide a link to the community at large through advocacy, public information, and education activities. What stands out to me, because advocacy that's my heart and soul. I'm all about advocating, and in a rural community especially, because we do have unique circumstances. And when you're talking about advocating, we're talking about elevating the voices of the people in our county, right? I am hearing people tell me that this Care Oregon policy is harming them. I'm seeing the harm because I'm seeing people insist that they pay out of pocket on that sliding fee scale that I have so that they can continue seeing me, even though I know it's going to be a financial burden for them. I am seeing firsthand how these policy changes are affecting our rural community. CBH is not, right? So it is concerning that this, I don't know how well CBH is going to be advocating to the county commissioners from their perspective. And so if I may, Monica, I'm almost done, I promise. Advocacy also means influencing policy, means securing resources, and most importantly for me, creating systemic change. Go ahead, Monica.
And so I would just like to
hold on one second, please. Thanks, Amber, for touching on a couple of those. Also wanted to point out on the council's specific responsibilities in our bylaws, provide an independent opinion to the Board of Commissioners on service directions, decisions, and proposals, which I don't feel that we are doing. Someone else is speaking for us. Mm-hmm. And this is where my disconnect is coming now. Okay, you may go, Monica.
So as I informed you, Randy, what staff and CBH is our community mental health provider. So that is who the county contracts to provide these services. And what I said is that we will be informing the board of the changes that the CPCCO have made. And this is so that they can have a better understanding of what they as a board are being asked to advocate for. These changes have not been brought to the board since the CPCCO is contracted by OHP to provide the state Medicare program, and it doesn't run through the county. So all of the board might not necessarily know what all of these changes are. And so following the work session on the 17th, HSAC is still welcome to do one of three things, which is what everybody is able to come and present to the board on. And that is do you want to have a letter of support for their request to submit to the CPCCO, to OHP? Do you want to, again, after we've educated the board, make a request to come before the board so now they have an understanding of what Amber is presenting on, or anybody is able to come and provide public comment. And so what I need to be doing for my board is educating them on changes, because if Amber's coming to them with concerns that she has, many board members might not know, well, what changes? What do these changes look like? And so being able to, we contract with the state for our CMHP services, and OHP contracts with our CMHP. And so making sure that they're aware of what these changes that the CPCCO made. Amber can still advocate for those that she's trying to serve, but I need to make sure that my board is educated on what these changes look like strictly from an administrative perspective.
Well, yeah, but it's not the full perspective because you're not hearing from Amber.
I understand that, and that's
I understand that, we have options after the fact, but then we've got to wait for another month or more, and by that time, it's lost.
And you're
Don't
welcome
you agree,
to come
Amber?
before. You're welcome to listen to the presentation. You're welcome to, provide public comment at a board meeting. This is my responsibility to make sure that my board is even aware that the CPCCO has made these Medicaid changes.
Okay, so then it was Commissioner Thompson's idea to come up with an idea on how to present this to the Board of Commissioners, and we did, and we're being shut down.
No, I told you that I would check with the county manager, and the county manager asked me, has the board been made aware of what the CPCCO changes are? And I said, no. And so he said, well, we need to educate them on what the changes are so they have a better understanding of what they're being asked to advocate for or not.
What better way to? I think that's, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with it. I just feel, again, I feel a disconnect to the Board of Commissioners because of all this.
It's not
setting well with me. So
there's never anything stopping anybody from going before the board in public comment.
Oh, I understand that, Monica. I totally get that. I know that. I'm aware. Go ahead, Amber.
If I may, real quick, I just want to bring up again the history, right? I think we're dealing with a lot of history here. And Monica, I think you're doing exactly what you need to do from your position. But what I'm not hearing is validation of Randy's feelings that we have a role to advocate, and he's feeling like he's been there's history of being stifled, right? And that's how he's feeling right now. That's contributing to this urgency that he's feeling in this particular instance. So I just think, again, we need to look at the history and understand.
Well, and that's not my intent to stifle anybody. I feel like, I understand the frustration of not having a commissioner present in the past, and I've done my best to be that communication. I am asked to do certain things, and so I was asked to make sure that my board is educated on what those CPCCO changes are, and I'm happy to, again, provide the opportunity, whether that be through a letter of support, whether that be through a work session, or again, the public comment period.
Well, again, like Amber said, I'm going to go back to this again. Provide an independent opinion to the Board of Commissioners. So that opinion on dealing with this is way after the fact. They need to be educated that at the last meeting. And we came up with an idea, and she agreed with it, but now we can't do it because your county manager said. So what is my role? Why am I even here? This is how I'm feeling, Monica, and everybody else. Again, total disconnect from what we're supposed to be, the intentions of our council is to be, and the intentions of the chair of this council. It's just like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? That's how I'm feeling.
Well, I'm
It's like
sorry
I
that
feel like I'm spinning. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels, and nothing's going on. It's like I got other things I could be doing with my time, but I'm here and I'm trying to make the best of it. So,
Lisa, you had your hand raised.
say what Commissioner Thompson, what your thoughts are, please.
Well, isn't this an interesting, this is an interesting situation. There's a backlog. I mean, I hear a backlog, and for my part in not seeing or not doing, I apologize because I'm trying to catch up here. I think with a legal mandate, a statutory scope of authority, and an intention behind the time we spend here together, to have it be relevant and timely is important. So I don't know if there's a way to educate the board more quickly so that we can compress the time frame so that that the feeling is more of responsiveness and less of being controlled. Is that what I'm hearing? Is it the lag that's problematic, Randy?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Commissioner, you're cutting out a little bit on my end, and I missed some of that. So it might be my connection here. I'm not sure, but I missed some of that.
Okay, well, I'm trying to. I said it was an interesting situation. I said
got that.
If there's anything I did or didn't do that made it worse, sorry.
Nope, you didn't.
Okay, good. Can we reduce the lag, the interval between when something comes up now that it appears that we have, I would say, a tighter, a more focused committee right now? Is there a way we can compress the time frame so that the concern that the board not have something sprung on them is honored? We honor the need to inform the board, but can we do it in a more compressed time frame so that it is more quickly addressed, lessening whatever feeling of frustration you have from the lag, the time lag?
Well, I think part of the education of the board in this Kara Oregon situation, a good perspective would be Amber presenting at that work section, along with Monica, county manager, whoever. But they're not seeing, they're going to see one side of here and not both sides. And again, like I said, CBH presenting it is a conflict of interest because they benefit out on this.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a conflict of interest if I could disagree just a little bit. It seems like it's they have a role to fulfill. They are paid to do a certain job. I wouldn't have a problem with listening to a tripart presentation because I think it's a complicated situation here in Clatsop County because we do have contractors, we do have staff administration, but we do have a committee that I think has an important role and is eager to fulfill it. I want to support everybody in that three parts.
And I appreciate that, but I don't feel we are being supported.
I got it. I hear that. Yep.
Okay. So Linda, who was first?
Linda was first.
Okay, Linda.
So I have a question for the commissioner. So I know Monica went to the county manager and he said no, but as representing our committee as a commissioner, do you have access to the county manager? Or if Monica says no, then it's no for you as well? I'm just wondering about that.
Well, didn't you just go right to the heart of it? The commissioner has a liaison role. We're still fleshing out the function of the liaison role because, Clatsop County commissioners are volunteers. 2 counties in Oregon have volunteer commissioners, Clatsop and Hood River. It's a different kind of thing. This is the 4th county in the 3rd state that I've dealt with. So it's different here. I would say that. I'm used to operating with a scope of authority within a chain of command. I'm used to honoring everybody's role and bringing out the best and supporting the best thing happening. I didn't know that this was an issue because I hadn't been included in the discussion. So going forward, maybe the liaison commissioner should be included in the discussion. That might be a way to improve the process. Because what it has been doesn't limit what it could be.
Okay, thank you.
Seamus. Thanks, Linda.
I'm just wondering, for the sake of clarity, if we're statutorily obligated to provide an independent opinion to the board, are we able to do that if it's being translated through the contracted provider?
And
Or
again,
does that inherently get translated through their perspective and opinions?
And again, what I'm saying that we are going to be providing to the board is nothing to do with Amber's presentation. It is simply the facts of what the CPCCO is saying is changing. That's all that
I think I'm
staff was
asking
going
on
to
a
be
bigger.
providing.
I think I'm asking on a bigger scale of any opinion that we're giving. If it's having to be presented through another third party, is that going to result in a game of telephone wherein the translator's opinion is inherently changing in some fashion the message that we as an independent body are trying to communicate?
So typically what has happened in the past
It
is
would
the
be the case
commission.
and is the case.
Typically what has happened in the past, this is the first time that I'm aware of that this committee is asking to go and present to the board. Typically what has happened in the past is the commissioner liaison is the one that provides updates as to what is discussed at the different committees that they're a part of. They then have a time period during the board meeting that they provide their commissioner liaison reports. And that is who is translating what you all are discussing and the work that you're doing. They bring that to their meeting. And so as their report. So the commissioner liaison is who is bringing forth your information. And again, this is the first time that I'm aware of that you all have requested to have a presentation done during a work session. So I wouldn't say that anybody is translating your information that you want to go to the board. It's coming from the commissioner.
If I may, really quickly, I want to just clarify one point is, and Randy has said this a couple of times now, and Commissioner Thompson, I'm not trying to hold you accountable here, but this suggestion did come about from a comment that Commissioner Thompson had made. How do we get this information to the rest of the commissioners? So I just want to make sure that we're clear about where the intent came from. And I also just want to clarify, I think, Seamus, I appreciate your comment because I hear that concern. That's what I was saying earlier too, is about things lost in translation, is that when it's not coming from the independent, the committee that's presenting, then there's this fear that it won't come across appropriately. And so I just want to say that I really support Commissioner Thompson's idea of having some sort of shared presentation when it comes to, especially when it comes to timely matters that involve our vulnerable members of our community.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Well, and you know what? maybe I wasn't listening carefully enough, but if you ask me, what did the liaison commissioner have to say about the CSAC in the almost 11 years I've been on the county board of commission, I can't tell you a whole lot. So my preference is always to empower the subject matter experts to elevate them, but that's how I do my work. That's the kind of leader I am. That's the kind of commissioner I would be. So that's why I made that suggestion. I wasn't trying to upend anything or dismantle or reassemble. On the other hand, if there's a better way to do it, if we could just talk in a respectful and amiable way about how to do that, I think that'd work.
So, yeah, and I agree with you, Commissioner, that you're trying to elevate, you wanted to elevate the situation. And that's where I am at as well, because like I said before, well, I'll say it again, there's just been this huge disconnect with the commissioners from us. And again, I just feel like I'm spinning my wheels here. So I maybe Amber and you present and Monica present together, or something to that effect, or myself on this situation. Amber's the expert on this situation. She knows more about it than I do. The commissioners aren't going to see, they're going to see, one side of things. And by the time it's to present, well, that's way too late for Amber's position. I mean, it just doesn't work that way with this situation. Some situations it could, but in this situation, it's not going to work.
Well, maybe I could reassure you a little bit, because I was
Again.
in. Well, it might help. That's the reason I asked for Amber's presentation, because I sent it on to the AOC staffer, who said she was having a meeting with the people at OHA about how this stuff worked. Now, I just did it today, so pardon me, because the meeting was yesterday. She met with several commissioners and staffers from around, Jessica Pratt did, and said, okay, do you have granular examples? And it took me till today to figure out, wait a minute, I've got a granular example. So I sent it on. So we've got a conduit going in a couple of different ways. I mean, that's honestly, that's why I go to all these committee meetings, is so that I'm included when they say, what's going on? How can we help? And if you give me the information, then I can forward it, because it'd be lovely to have support of the County Board of Commissioners and to have us be more educated. That'd be great. But I thought it was timely. I wanted to move on it. So I sent that on. I sent Amber's letter to the County Board of Commissioners on to the AOC staffer. I sent the presentation email with the link in it. I sent that on because I can go quickly. I can't, carry the whole rest of the board or shift the history that you have, but I do what I can as quickly as I can if you give me the appropriate material, because I have a different, I'm elected. You know what I mean? I get to do that stuff, not to undercut or disrupt the systems that exist, but because that's the privilege that electeds had, because we're accountable to the voters. Nobody can fire us except the voters. So that gives us a certain scope of authority. Whatever I can make up and I have the stamina and the intelligence to do, I can do it. As long as it's legal and ethical and fiscally prudent and all that. Yeah. So I did that. So thank you for giving me the information. That's moved on.
Okay. So thank you, Commissioner. So I'm going to propose something here, that we put this back on the agenda for next month. And I know this is all of a sudden, and maybe we can, as a group collectively, can come up with some other ideas. Possibly, Monica, I would like to see you possibly convince the county manager to allow something like this comes up at a work session. I mean,
You broke up some for me, but I will talk to the county manager, I think is what you were asking me to do.
yes, yes. To figure out a way where we can, he can allow us, one of us to breathe kind of an urgent matter. And maybe we can, other people in our council can come up with some ideas, fresh ideas as well. Commissioner Thompson, you as well. Maybe we can all brainstorm together to see what we can do moving forward with this. I would appreciate it. Amber has her hand up.
Yep, I do. Thank you, Randy. I just really quick, first of all, I want to say thank you, Commissioner Thompson, for passing that information along. That was just really exciting news for me to hear, that the information's getting into the hands of more people who can actually bring about some change. So that's really exciting for me to hear. Thank you so much for passing it along. I also just want, obviously this issue has to do, it's near and dear to my heart, and it impacts me and impacts my people. But I do think that this is a springboard to a bigger conversation about how things are going to look in the future. Because I do think that, Randy, I know that you've expressed some frustrations, and you have been expressing frustrations in the past. I think that you are an amazing advocate, and you are so wonderful in the role of leader, of the chairperson for this committee. I don't want to lose you. So I think that, as I mentioned earlier, we just need to rebuild some trust that has been lost. And I think that this conversation doesn't just need to be about the situation with Care Oregon, but it can be a springboard to future conversations. So I support something being on the agenda for next month as well.
Thank you, Amber. Lisa, you have your hand up.
I was just going to ask Monica if they decided to do a letter of support, what the process would be for that and what the timing would be. Because if that's like one of the ways that they're, able to provide that advocacy, I only have experience with that for when they were doing the TRL ordinance. Then, if the timing aligns and that's a way that they can express their opinion that coincides with the CBH staff presentation, then, I can start working on that after this meeting and try to put together a timeline. So I wasn't sure how that works.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, that was one of the processes that I mentioned. And so oftentimes what happens with a lot of different committees is they ask for letters of support for something that they are advocating for. And so there's a draft that is presented. And if that's something that you could draft for them, Lisa, that's awesome. And then what we do is we then send that out to each of our board members, and they have an opportunity to either provide some edits or some comments. And then once we have a final draft, then we send that out and we ask them, do we have a consensus as far as if you want to support this letter or not? Sometimes what happens is you have all 5 of them say, yes, let's support it. Sometimes you just have them, and so then they'll each have their individual signatures on that letter. Sometimes it's just a consensus because we're only able to hear back from the majority, and so then it's the chair who will then sign that. And then in some instances, it isn't supported by the whole board, and so then what we do is each commissioner that is in support of it has their own letterhead, and it's put on their letterhead, they sign it, and then it gets sent on to the appropriate place that we're trying to advocate to.
Thanks, Monica. And we have done that in the past, but it's been quite a while. It's been several years, actually. I think the last one was flavored tobacco, I believe. But yes. Yeah.
And that is, to your point in regard to advocacy, that is your role in regard to advocacy. And so when there are things such as that, that's oftentimes how those letters of support are going out, because oftentimes who we are then advocating to is somebody who's who you're asking our board to then send something on to.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. I think we should probably follow up on that, even though, it's a little late, but it's better late than never, I guess. So, okay, let's put this on the agenda. Lisa, please, for our next meeting.
So just to clarify, Randy, did you want me to draft something and try to send it to you by next week, and then it can get sent out to all the
Yes,
members
please.
to look over?
If
and then
you would, that
Okay.
would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Lisa.
Sure.
Okay, let's move on. We're running out of time. We still got a lot to do here. Thanks for listening and communicating. Member renewal update, Grant North, Lisa.
Yes, so it's already gone to work session, and they didn't have a lot of questions, or I think any questions from the board about Grant being renewed, his membership being renewed. And so it's going to go to the board again on September 10th at 6 p.m. To be voted on in a regular session.
Okay. Any questions, anyone? Okay, thanks, Lisa. Let's move on. Care Oregon policy update, Monica.
So that was what I had I don't know, I apologize, but my information was just that we'll be presenting to the board the Care Oregon updates. That's all that I had for that. And I feel like we
Okay.
kind of discussed that already.
We touched on that, yeah. Okay. Any questions for Monica? If not, let's move on to provider reports, CBH and Aaron. Is she still here, or who is the other person?
Brady is the other
Brady.
person who's here, and
Brady.
yes, they're both here.
I'm still here. I'm not
Okay.
sure about what provider reports
Sorry.
we have, though.
Brady, I don't know if Shira had anything for you to provide. I can give an update on something that we're co-working on, but I don't know if she had an opportunity to update you before she went out sick.
No, she
Okay.
didn't. So I'll lean on you for this.
Okay, thanks. And I can give mine after Commissioner Thompson. I'll just give that update then.
Okay, all right, let's move on to Commissioner report and Commissioner Thompson.
Well, I think I just gave it too, because you give me the right stuff and I'll pass it on. I mean, I'm just a conduit, really, for stuff. I try and bring what needs to be said to the people who can do something about it. So I'm your middle person. I'm the peristaltic action of the administrative process. Is that too graphic? I don't know. You gotta have some fun with this stuff, you guys. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Let's move on to County Manager report, Monica.
Thank you. So yeah, the projects that we've also provided updates before in the past, but are now really coming to fruition is the work that we've been doing with CBH on the opioid settlement funds regarding putting a CADC and peer mentors in the schools. Prior to school year starting, we went to an Astoria school district in service and had great conversation. They had representation from all of their K through 12 schools. And some of the members of their team have already gone to start getting to know some of the folks, some of the new students at the high school and middle school. And so they're already starting to work on those relationships. That contract for CBH will be going before the board on September 10th. And then we go out on October 13th to Napa School District to kind of talk about the program there as well to their teachers and counselors and administrators too. And so still waiting to hear back from Seaside and Warrenton and Jewel, but excited to start building this program. The other thing that I'm just going to update on really quick is, as you all know, we have had the emergency shelter funding that was going through the county for the 23-25 biennium. I believe it's House Bill 3344, or I might have my numbers mixed up, has put that funding into has made it more permanent. It is, from a shelter perspective, it is about a 7% reduction in funding. We are still required to maintain the same level of beds, and so it's the philosophy of doing more with less. And so that's going to be something that we're still waiting on the contract from the OHCS for that. That's supposed to be, I keep getting told any day now. And so hopefully we will see that soon, because I know that our shelter providers are eager to get that funding to make sure that they keep their doors open. What was previously called ORI, Oregon Rehousing Initiative, is now called LTRA. That took a bigger hit. A pretty significant one. We're still waiting for those final numbers. I just came from a meeting just before this one. And the unfortunate part about that is they are not anticipating having contracts to go out to us until January. So I do have a meeting scheduled, or a follow-up conversation is going to be getting scheduled to talk about what we do in the interim, because CCA, who manages that program right now, has had to notify several tenants that October 1st they won't have any more funding. So still more to come. It's good news that the legislature funded it, but it is unfortunate news that, like with everything else, we're seeing cuts. And so that is all that I have, unless there's any questions.
No questions. Thanks, Monica. Appreciate it. Let's Jill, are you here?
Oh, I am sorry, you cut out. I didn't hear you call on me. Yeah, so
what's going on?
With public health, we are in some of the last stages for a few of our community assessments that we've been working on. So in partnership with Columbia Memorial Hospital and Providence Seaside, our community health needs assessment, we are wrapping up the final stages on that, and would be happy to provide a presentation to this group in the future once that report is finalized and ready for public distribution. And then just working a lot on our public health modernization work plan for the biennium, and a couple of things on that is one, this is the first year that the state is providing incentive funding for our metrics, and we did get a small amount for that. Nobody's getting a large amount, but it was nice to know that there's kind of a reward for meeting some of our metrics. And then also we have had deliverables, I think I've shared at this table before, around our environmental, our climate and health adaptation plan, our health equity plan, and our all hazards plan, which is part of the county's emergency operations plan. And our equity plan, which Lisa has shared with this group, was submitted at the end of June. The climate and health adaptation plan and our all hazards plans will be something that we're going to be working with our emergency management on. So those deliverables were not submitted to the state yet, but we do have an extension on those. So there's communication. They know that it's happening. And there will be times where we'll be coming back to this group for community input on those two plans as well. And then trying to think if there's anything else right now to share. I'm going to be out of the office a lot of September, so kind of trying to get a lot of administrative tasks done. But if there's anything you need me for, let me know as soon as possible, because I'm going to be out of the office a lot.
Okay, thanks, Jill. Any questions or comments for Jill? If Linda Winstanley.
Just one quick one. I saw some of the questions on the health, the one that you're working with Providence on, Jill. And so from my perspective with health insurance, access to health care can mean two things. It can either mean I have health insurance and I can afford health care, or it can mean I can get a doctor's appointment. And so when I see questions that have anything to do with access to health care, I think it needs more specific. Can I afford health care or can I get a doctor's appointment? Because it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to bring that up because I know that was kind of questions on that survey. Anyway, wasn't real specific on that survey. So.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. Any other comments or questions for Jill? If not, let's move on. Lisa, do you have anything?
I'll just add, we're finishing up our youth prevention needs assessment sometime in October. I'm excited to share that with you guys when it's done. And we have, we're starting our meetings for the data capacity assessment to do with what kind of capacity we have as a community to be looking at analyzing data, especially around substance use. So more to come on that later.
Okay. Comments or questions for Lisa? Thanks, Lisa. Let's move on to
Commissioner Thompson.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. I didn't see you there.
Well, thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, knowing that sexual minority kids are often most at risk, are we? Is that included in the collection or evaluation of the data?
Specifically for the youth prevention needs assessment, we did key informant interviews with community leaders, and one of those community leaders was Ben from the Q Center. I'm not sure if the data is going to be granular enough to have quantitative data on that, but his input will be an important part of the qualitative data that's included in that report. So thank you for thinking of that.
You bet, because those kids often have more problems. So I'm glad you're checking for it. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Lisa? If not, we'll move on to the next meeting. Next meeting is October 2nd at 3 p.m. And if anybody has any topics they would like to add to the agenda, please contact Lisa or myself, and we'll make sure to get them on there. Seamus, you have your hand up.
Yes, I'm just going to go ahead and say now I won't be available for that meeting. Unfortunately, I'll be at League of Oregon Cities that day.
Okay, thanks, Seamus. And so earlier, okay, so let's move on. Good of the order, I have a couple of things. Lisa, Kirsten Bergerthon has resigned, so we have an opening. Monica, if we want to get that out to the public for applications. And then also I noticed earlier in the meeting that Miranda Robinson wasn't present, but she did join us late, so she was present. Just to make sure we got that on record.
Thank you. Yes, I added that and put the time that she arrived.
At an adjourn. It is 4:23. We did it. We got done by 4:30. Sweet. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate y'all.